This 39 Dunedin News Bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Good evening, Dunedin. I'm Rebecca Dupree. The government is under fire for reportedly cheating its way towards its international climate change obligations. A report released this week highlights the government's purchase of fraudulent Russian and Ukrainian carbon credits. That's being described as scandalous by a top local academic who has an alternative suggestion.
In the headlines for all the wrong reasons. It's just been revealed the government spent about $200 million of taxpayer money on bogus carbon credits from Russia and Ukraine. Emeritus Professor Sir Alan Marks says that's a scandal threatening the country's image.
New Zealand has to come clean. As they've said in the report, we're threatening our clean green image, we're threatening our nationality, our reputation as a responsible nation. This is very serious for New Zealand's reputation.
The Morgan Foundation report calls the carbon credits from Russia and Ukraine hot air because they didn't represent emissions reductions. Other countries refused to buy them, but New Zealand allegedly snapped them up while it was allowed, stockpiling enough for use until 2020.
If government knew that from 2013 and they're still proceeding with it, it's scandalous, nothing short of scandalous.
In buying cheap baseless credits, the government seemingly forced their value down to almost nothing. That meant there was no incentive for the forestry industry to plant more trees, so the country saw mass deforestation and conversions to dairy. New Zealand's annual emissions have been increasing all the while, and now the country produces about 18 tonnes of greenhouse gases per person each year. The corresponding figure for the world is 7 tonnes per person, making New Zealand the fourth worst contributor.
New Zealand has got the highest proportion of these Ukrainian and Russian units of any country in the world.
The government's responded, saying it made the best decisions based on the rules at the time. It's reviewing the emissions trading scheme for which public submissions close at the end of the month. Sir Alan will be putting his concerns in writing, but says the now worthless scheme should be replaced with a carbon tax. Rosie Mannins, 39, Dunedin News.
Dunedin City Councillors Aaron Hawkins and Lee Vandervis have announced they're running for the mayoralty in this year's local body elections. Hawkins is running for the position of mayor under the Dunedin Greens banner. He's also seeking re-election as a councillor, as is Vandervis. At this stage, the only other confirmation is incumbent Mayor Dave Cull, who's seeking a third term. There have been 57 mayors of Dunedin and only one of them has been a woman. That was Suki Turner, who was in charge between 1995 and 2004. This year's elections are in October. The spotlight is back on medicinal cannabis following the approval of its use in the second ever New Zealand case. Associate Health Minister Peter Dunn recently approved a new non-pharmaceutical grade product for a patient with Tourette's syndrome. But there is concern that a lot more research is needed to determine exactly how the products work.
Looking closely at the effects of a controversial product, University of Otago senior lecturer Dr John Ashton is researching the possible health effects of cannabidiol, an active compound found in cannabis. It's different to THC, which causes a high in patients, something that's of particular interest as the conversation about the legalisation of medicinal cannabis heats up.
It doesn't cause that high, and it's not really a pain reliever, but it's thought it might help with some types of epilepsy. So all these things seem to get mixed up. So that my first thought is, if there's a push to legalise medicinal cannabis, exactly what are people talking about?
At this stage, there's still a lot that's unknown about cannabidiols and treating specific types of epilepsy. What Ashton is trying to do is narrow down the biochemistry of what the products actually do in the body. He says currently the cannabidiol treatments available overseas often haven't been widely tested, and that's concerning.
In America, they're treated not, these cannabidiol products aren't even regulated as pharmaceuticals, they're treated as dietary supplements. So the quality control is very poor. Some of them contain some some about 2/3 of them contain a different amount of THC than they claim. Some of them much more, some of them less.
Ashton says medicinal cannabis is a difficult research area, but one that a lot of academics around the world are focusing on. While he says the conversation about its use in New Zealand doesn't directly impact his research, it's a field in which information is lacking.
There's a demand for high quality clinical research, so a lot of the evidence that comes for epilepsy and cannabidiol comes from parent anecdote, and that's fairly low quality evidence. There's a great deal of risk of bias in seeing what you want to see.
Ashton's attempting to understand the science behind what goes on during clinical research trials to refer data back to those conducting them. It's a lengthy process, but one that could result in increased treatment options that are backed up by science. Ruby McAndrew, 39, Dunedin News.
Police have increased patrols in the Musselburgh and Tainui areas following a spate of criminal activity at the weekend. 2 bicycles were stolen from a utility vehicle parked on Norman Street around midnight on Saturday. Around the same time, a resident in nearby Ravelston Street heard banging outside and subsequently found several plants ripped from their pots. In Musselburgh, a few hours later, a mailbox and fence in Royal Crescent were damaged after what the occupant believes was an attempted burglary. Police are asking residents in those suburbs to report any further signs of suspicious behaviour, such as unfamiliar people lingering around properties. A local animal welfare specialist is supporting proposed new laws to protect pets and livestock. The government has just released a list of 85 regulations around animal care, conduct, medical treatment and transportation. But there's a suggestion more should be done to make New Zealand a cruelty-free country.
Playing with a feline friend. The humble house pet could be more protected as the government looks to introduce a number of new animal welfare regulations.
To me, they seem quite sensible. So it appears to me that they are taking a lower level of animal abuse, which at the moment they can't prosecute, and that they're putting fines and regulations around that to give the Animal Welfare Act a little bit more teeth.
The Ministry for Primary Industries has developed new welfare laws to better protect animals and boost the country's welfare reputation. Changes prohibit people from leaving dogs in hot cars and from drowning cats and dogs. There are also a number of rule variations around managing and transporting livestock. Several proposed restrictions carry penalties of between $300 and $500 for first-time offences and maximum fines of $5,000. But Pine says that's just a slap on the wrist.
I personally think that that's probably a little bit too light, but I also think that perhaps educating people as well, as opposed to simply just fining them, is actually possibly a more positive way of going about improving the treatment of animals.
She says it's a step in the right direction to becoming a cruelty-free country, but more could be done around the abandonment and desexing of animals.
Abandonment of animals didn't seem to be in there, so people that, particularly cats, just abandon their cats because they're moving house and they leave it behind. I've also heard anecdotally that people often do the same with dogs as well, particularly if they're renting, because it's hard to find a rental property if you've got a dog. So I think that could perhaps be addressed.
Proposed law changes are subject to public consultation, with submissions closing towards the end of next month. Annabelle Dick, 39, Dunedin News.
Still to come on 39 Dunedin News, we find out what's kept an associate professor in the teaching profession for 50 years. And we take a look at the outcome for a resource consent application for a proposed subdivision.
Far too much stock. Alex Campbell Menswear, South Dunedin. Don't let me bore you, but it's rock bottom. Jeans, $40. Casual pants from only $20. Shorts from $30. Hundreds of them. Hundreds and hundreds of shirts at rock bottom prices from $20 and knitwear from $50. That's rock bottom.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
It's rock bottom.
It's on again. The Star Regent 24-hour book sale starts noon, 10th of June. Don't miss out.
On m'a demandé d'égalité sur la voiture des pieds maintenant. arrache laine et je maquille. D'accord, ok.
For professional, reliable and approachable service where your dream kitchen design can become an affordable reality, contact the team at Kitchens for Less. Call 455 9973 or visit us online.
Ecrotech Limited have been supplying beekeeping equipment and honey products in New Zealand for over 100 years. A specialist manufacturer of hiveware and plastic products for the beekeeping industry. They are the leading supplier of beekeeping equipment nationwide. For all your beekeeping needs, visit ecrotech.co.nz or call 0800 11 7766.
Mobility Scooters Otago. Mobility scooters, new and used, electric manual wheelchairs, strollers and walkers. Free home demonstration and delivery. Call Tony on 03 455 2875 or visit our showroom, 211 Kinneedwood Street, opposite Westpac.
Garrador Dunedin, delivering quality stylish garage doors in Dunedin for over 15 years. New doors, replacement doors, repairs and maintenance are all part of Garrador's quality service. Garrador Dunedin offers a full range of modern quality doors to suit any home. Come visit the team at 553 Kaikoura Valley Road. Visit www.garrador.co.nz or call us on 488 5676.
Pregnant? Need to talk? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Pregnancy counselling services are here to help. It's free, it's confidential. Call us now on 0800 773 462.
Here's something else to look forward to sinking your teeth into every weekend with the Otago Daily Times, the Weekend Mix, your guide to what's hot in fashion, entertainment, food and more. New weekend magazine in your ODT. Pick up your copy this Saturday.
Welcome back. There's been a downturn in the rural property market with 42 fewer farm sales in the first 3 months of this year compared to the same time last year. That's a 10% reduction across the country. The median price per hectare has also fallen by about $700 to just over $27,000. In Otago, property agents are noticing more neighbour-to-neighbour sales and splitting of farms. They say that's happening throughout the country to achieve sales. But commentators say well-established Otago farmers seem to have a solid footing in the current economic climate. And on that note, let's take a look at today's financials. The NZX 50 has closed the day up 22 points. It's now at 6,873. The Dow Jones is up 107 points. To the exchange rates, and the Kiwi dollar is up against all the major currencies we follow. A University of Otago lecturer is into his 50th year of teaching students. Associate Professor John Haraway has no plans to slow down despite being in his 70s, and he joins us to talk about it. Good evening.
Good evening.
Congratulations, you deserve a medal. 50 years teaching, that's incredible. What's your current role at the university?
Well, I'm an associate professor in the Department of Mathematics and Statistics, and that's what I have been doing. That's where I am now.
Okay, what led you into teaching?
Originally I graduated from Otago, and the head of department, Professor Jeff Jowett, asked me to do some initial teaching, and it went well, and he invited me to apply, and this was back in the 1960s.
Ooh, why are you still doing it?
Well, I enjoyed it. It's actually very enjoyable teaching students because it's the brightest part of the age group that we get at the university.
What's been the highlight of your career so far?
Well, over 50 years there could be several. One, I suppose, is being able to teach the very large classes successfully. Another one would be the fact that I've been involved internationally with various organisations overseas and have collaborated with people all around the world. So I had a great opportunity to travel, and the university has supported that.
How has teaching changed in the time that you've been a lecturer?
I thought that might be a question. Firstly, I don't think students have changed. believe it or not. I think they're the same now as they were years ago. I used to use chalk on a blackboard. There were no computers. Now, of course, we can use cell phones and smartphones in the lectures for getting student responses. So it's changed really quite dramatically from chalk to electronics, luckily slowly.
Now, you've said that you have travelled quite a bit. Can you tell us a little bit about where you've been?
Yes, I have been on the Council of the International Statistics Institute, and that took me to funded meetings in Reykjavik, where I nearly got trapped by the volcano and didn't get back immediately, but also Rome and Hong Kong. And then the conferences that I've organised have been in places like Brazil, Ukraine, Macau, Portugal, China, very interesting places for statistics education conferences.
What have been the biggest challenges in your job?
Probably matching research with teaching. That's where the pressure comes in. It's changed now. There's a bigger emphasis on research, and that is very important for all universities. And luckily, I've enjoyed doing that. But it's quite a challenge. It's quite a challenge having to cope with all of these emails that come from all around the world while I was president of that association.
Any plans for retirement?
Right at the moment, I am half-time for 2 years.
And what happens in 2 years' time?
Well, that could be when I retire.
What's been the most satisfying aspect of your work so far?
I think that those international commitments, I think working with young people, working with students, the way they appreciate what they're being told. Now, I have to admit, statistics is a rather dry subject, so it has to be motivated, and that's where I've been lucky, because I've been involved with a number of very interesting applications, and I can use those in my teaching, and students, I think, like that.
How do you think you've influenced those students?
Well, that's also quite a difficult question. I think people all around the country need to be able to analyse data and do it correctly, and so the story they get from statistics lectures and from the subject of statistics tells them how to produce those reports. It's very important, actually, to produce the correct answers.
From the University of Otago, Associate Professor John Haraway, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
After the break on 39 Dunedin News, a proposed subdivision gets the thumbs down and residents are being urged to have a say on a council plan.
Sir Bob Charles, New Zealand's greatest golfer and still going strong.
I'm sure that Sportsville was a contributing factor to my success, and I'll continue to use it.
Sir Bob Charles Sportsville, a product so good he puts his name to it.
Well, I believe Sportsville helps maintain your quality of life.
Now being used by active men and women globally to support strength and mobility.
It works for me.
Sir Bob Charles Sportsville in the new all-black pack. Call now for the Sportsville special, 0800 502 402.
Mobility Scooters Otago. Mobility scooters, new and used, electric manual wheelchairs, strollers and walkers. Free home demonstration and delivery. Call Tony on 03 455 2875 or visit our showroom, 211 Canudwood Street, opposite Westpac.
Tech Limited have been supplying beekeeping equipment and honey products in New Zealand for over 100 years. A specialist manufacturer of hiveware and plastic products for the beekeeping industry. They are the leading supplier of beekeeping equipment nationwide. For all your beekeeping needs, visit ecrotech.co.nz or call 0800 117766.
Ready Lawn has the perfect solution for all those lawn woes. Call Ready Lawn today on 486 1819.
Oui, tu vas voir Marjolaine et le maquillage. D'accord, ok.
New Zealand Beeswax Limited are the quintessential beeswax, woodware and beekeeping suppliers. From the amateur beekeeper to the commercial operator, New Zealand Beeswax Limited has the quantity to meet your needs. For great prices, great service New Zealand-wide, contact New Zealand Beeswax Limited on 03 693 9189 or visit www.beeswax.co.nz.
Far too much stock. Alex Campbell Menswear, South Dunedin. Don't let me bore you, but it's rock bottom. Jeans, $40. Casual pants from only 20. Shorts from 30. Hundreds of them. Hundreds and hundreds of shirts at rock bottom prices. From $20. And knitwear from $50. That's rock bottom.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
It's rock bottom.
Tune in on Thursday for Motorsport Night on Dunedin Television.
There's generally not a job that we can't get a door out and in a day.
It's important to make sure you get a good design because you're going to be in it for the rest of your life.
There's no schemes that are wrong when it's a personal choice thing, but some do look better than others.
Welcome back. Resource consent has been denied for the proposed subdivision of rural residential sections in Halfway Bush. The owners of 5 properties in Dalziel Road want to subdivide their land into 34 residential lots. The area in question covers about 16 hectares. Dunedin City Council planners say small domestic sections would be inappropriate in the rurally zoned suburb. They cite potential overcrowding and traffic congestion among reasons for denying resource consent. The council is also worried about setting a dangerous precedent in relation to allowing small lots in rural areas. Several people, including neighbouring residents, opposed the subdivision. Residents are being urged to have their say on the City Council's proposed annual plan before it's too late. Councillors and staff have been holding community engagement events to better inform the public about planned changes and to gauge feedback. And several people from North East Valley have offered the latest opinions.
Combing through the financial details, these residents are having their thoughts and concerns about the City Council's next annual plan budget heard as part of a public consultation.
We're going around the city talking to different communities about what their ambitions and aspirations are for the city as we go into the process for setting our budgets for the next financial year.
Several city councillors and staff spent an afternoon chatting with North East Valley community members about how money should be allocated. It was the last of 6 public meetings that have been held around Dunedin and in outlying suburbs. Councillors say if there's anything that residents want to discuss, it's not off the table.
One of the concerns has been that people seem to think that they can only give feedback on a set of specific questions. We are asking for feedback on certain topics especially, but people can still, as they have in previous years, make comment on any council service or activity.
The council spent last year creating its next long-term plan, and this round of consultation is about focusing on things not included in the 10-year forecast. That includes Gig City funding, an emphasis on arts and culture and environmental strategies. Although the council's accepting comments about anything, it's particularly keen on gauging community opinion about coastal erosion and the protection of low-lying communities.
We're seeking particular feedback on how we invest in our arts and culture community, how we can best spend money in the economic development realm, and some more long-term thinking around how we deal with environmental issues.
As the public drop-ins have ended, residents are being urged to submit their feedback via the council's website. Submissions close tomorrow. Annabelle Dick, 39, Dunedin News.
And now recapping tonight's top stories on 39 Dunedin News. The government has allegedly bought fraudulent carbon credits from Russia and Ukraine, angering many people, including a top local academic. Researchers at Otago University are looking into the science behind medical marijuana following the approval of a product's use. And proposed tougher animal laws are being welcomed by welfare advocates, but they say more could be done to make the country cruelty-free. And it's time now to find out what's going to be in Wednesday's Otago Daily Times, and Barry's with me. Hi.
Hello, Rebecca. The Labour Party has dropped its plan to run a block of candidates in the local body elections. Interesting call. Kamba College has announced a big building plan to upgrade its ageing buildings, so a massive financial outlay there. Decision on a fresh food outlet in South Dunedin has been released today. And you'll have to find out about that in the paper, of course.
Yeah, I will.
And residents of a rest home are disgusted after a flag and up to 9 crosses, I think, were stolen from their Anzac Memorial. So it's a disappointing lead into...
It's extremely
Anzac
disappointing,
Day.
and there's an awful lot of theft and stupidity around at the moment, isn't
Well,
there?
absolutely. And of course,
breaking pot plants and what have
posters
you.
were defaced earlier last week, so disturbing trend.
Very disturbing. Thanks, Barry, though. We can read about that in tomorrow's
Thank
ODT. It's time now for local weather.
This 39 Dunedin News weather update proudly brought to you in association with Silverhorn's Emu Oil.
And here is our city view. It's taken of a family and their dog playing soccer at Jubilee Park. Around the city today at 3 o'clock, 17 degrees for the central city and 20 for both the Gardens and the Tyree. To the situation, an anticyclone is moving slowly across the country this week. A mild northerly flow will develop from Friday. Well, to the forecast for some of the main towns on the lower South Island for tomorrow, some cloud about for Invercargill and Te Anau, but fine weather for Gore and Alexandra. And it's a fine one for Queenstown, Oamaru, Wanaka and Twizel, highs of between 16 and 18 degrees. And Dunedin tonight, fine but cool with 6 degrees. Tomorrow and Thursday, mostly fine with nor'easters, a high of 17 for Wednesday and Thursday. And finally to the Otago Pallet Fires, tidal and fishing information. Low tide tomorrow morning is at 9:10. High tide follows at 2:50. And the run of good fishing conditions continues tomorrow, with the best time to have your line in the water at around 11:10 in the morning. And that's all from the team here at 39 Dunedin News for Tuesday. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good night.
This 39 Dunedin News Bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.